It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Hi, Dave Despain with MAV TV, which is your television destination if you're looking for motorsports. Radio, you found it. You're listening to The Front Stretch.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Make sure you get over to Joe's Karting today and do a little bit of fast-paced, white-knuckle racing.
And speculate on silly season while you're doing it.
Might as well. The race today at New Hampshire set to kick off at about 2 o'clock. That's when the picks are due, and that's, I think, green flag set the wave just about 15 minutes after that. Coverage starts on NBCSN at 12:30 and PRN also at 12:30. So you can get over to Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the Front Stretch. After you do a little bit of racing at Joe's Karting, you can go over to Quaker Steak and Lube, enjoy yourself some lunch, and watch the race, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race at New Hampshire.
The fifth and final race in the Crewman for a Day contest.
It's going to be a great time going on over at I-80 Speedway in a couple of weeks. Contest wraps up today. We can't say thank you to everybody who's been involved. David Starr Racing, I-80 Speedway, Rick Havenridge for sponsoring it. By the way, congratulations to Rick. He popped the question to his girlfriend last weekend, and I don't know why, but she said yes.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe she felt sorry for him or what was going on.
That's very possible. So congratulations to a good buddy of ours and a show supporter, Rick Havenridge, and his girlfriend, now fiance Patsy, for getting engaged. All right, Dirk, it's officially July. We're about midway through July. We are, by the way, 1 week away, less than a week away from the Silver Dollar Nationals, and silly season couldn't be more thick and heavy and in full force. So great on NBC, they wrote up this little article about available rides, drivers that are available, and contract years, and kind of figuring out where people could land. And the reason why, again, this is all sparked is because at Kentucky, Matt Kenseth kind of let it slip that he wasn't going to be in the 20 in 2018. He was no longer going to be at Joe Gibbs Racing. And at first when he made the comment, I thought that he didn't expect to be in the 20. But then as the conversations went on during that race, you could tell the terms that people were using, it was definite. It was done. He was not going to be in the 20 for next season. And then Joe Gibbs Racing came out on Monday and said, well, we're not really ready to announce our plans yet. And then I thought, what the heck is going on? And I think Matt just let it slip sooner than they expected him to. But he even said during that press conference in Kentucky that he's known for a couple of weeks now, and it's kind of nice to just let everyone else know and kind of get it out there so he doesn't have to keep that thing bottled up anymore.
Well, I think it also lets people know that he's going to be available.
Right.
Hey, I know there's some rides out there. I need to get in line now.
Yeah, and speaking of those rides, there's plenty of rides that are available. And later on in the week, eventually, I believe it was on Wednesday is when it was announced and shocked the world. I mean, the world stood still. Carl Edwards went, wow, I didn't even see that come. I'm just kidding. Eric Jones is going to be in the 20 for 2018. And that's kind of where we saw this going. Now, there was always a snowball's chance in, that one place of something weird happening. Maybe Carl Edwards comes back for I don't know, something weird happening. But you knew when Eric Jones was signed for a one-year deal at Furniture Row, and the relationship between Furniture Row and Joe Gibbs Racing, that Eric's probably going to come over and race. We didn't know what car because Matt could have re-signed for another couple of years. Denny is on a contract year, I believe, next year. Actually, we'll know that in here in a second if Denny's on a contract. Yeah, I think it's next year that his contract ends. There was a possibility that Eric was going to come over to Joe Gibbs Racing. We just didn't know where. And then when Matt said, I'm not in the 20, everyone kind of went,
Well, and there was also the possibility that Barney Visser could have said, I want to keep I want to keep Ryan and Eric together. We're going to run the 77, the 78 for another 5 years or something. And he's got the money to do that. Whether he wanted to do that or not, nobody knows. But, Eric's halfway through the rookie season with Rookie of the Year honors on his shoulders right now. He don't have it clinched, but he's the man in the driver's seat for that title. Martin is, as far as I'm concerned, the man in the driver's seat for the title, even though now he's got the points leads since the penalty hit for Kyle Larson. But
they've got that 78 team humming.
Oh man, they're on a beat right now.
You kind of wonder if you're Eric Jones and maybe he didn't have a say of where he went. Maybe the contract required him to come over to Joe Gibbs Racing. But if I'm Erik Jones, I'm looking at the current landscape thinking, maybe I need to stay at Furniture Row, because Martin Truex Jr. has all of the stage wins for Toyota, all but 3 of the stage wins for Toyota, all of the race wins. He's leading in the points championship. He's whooping everybody's butt when it comes into the playoff points.
And he's got double the playoff points of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, if he runs these last 10 races basically like he ran this first half of the season, he could end up with almost a full race of playoff points. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned, unless something really odd would happen, like blow up the first lap 3 races in a row, he's going to advance, and he's going to be in the Final Four because he gets that 60 points every round. It's crazy.
He gets the chip, use that 60 points to continue. I don't believe that the 60 points will continue at the beginning of every round, but when he needs it to qualify into the next round, if he needs it to move him on, he will.
Oh, I thought the 60 points moved him on, or if that's what he ends up. Right now it's 28 points.
Right.
But it could very well easily end up there in the 50s, which is almost a full race.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what happens with this. And unfortunately, this is something for probably the Stitcher app conversation, but I think Martin Truex Jr.'s success this year is becoming the demise of the playoff system, the stage system and the playoff bonus points. I don't know. I mean, NASCAR may make changes to it in the offseason. I really hope they don't, because I think it's helped out a lot. And I think that the first year they've unrolled it is just a year that Martin Truex Jr. is being a freak behind the wheel.
Well, and I mean, he's been a freak the last couple of years, let's be honest.
But he's had the mechanical issues that's kept him back. He's not having them now. And he's just racking up stage points and bonus playoff points. It's just insane how many he's getting.
Well, it just goes to prove that somebody like Martin, he's out there to race every lap.
Yeah.
So's Brad Keselowski. I mean, Kyle Busch races every lap. These guys aren't out there just driving around. We're 10 laps from the end. I got to try and win the race. Mm-hmm. Martin wants to be out front the whole time. So does Brad. So does Kyle Busch. There's several drivers like that. But some of the other guys say, well, we can just ride around here and see where we finish, And that's just not going to do any good anymore.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Let's talk about the landscape as far as rides that are available. We know the 88 is going to be available over at Hendrick Motorsports. Haven't heard who's going to be in it. Kind of sounds like Alex Bowman is a front runner, but now it could be Matt Kenseth. That could be one of the places that Matt Kenseth goes, because we talked about it a couple of times. I think the most likely person to bump Alex Bowman out of that 88 is going to be a big name.
Yeah, see, I don't think Alex Bowman's the guy in for the 88. I think it's William Byron.
That could be too. But they both got developmental deals with Hendrick.
But I think he's the one he's out there winning races in the Xfinity Series, which Alex Bowman didn't do a bunch of. So,
right. Neither did Jimmy Johnson or Tony Stewart.
No.
So just because it's not successful in the Xfinity Series doesn't necessarily mean it's going to that non-success is going to translate up.
But usually, if you are successful in the Xfinity Series, that does translate up.
Yeah, absolutely. The 5-car still has a year with Casey Kane on the contract, but Hendrick Motorsports does have an option to buy Casey out of his final year. And with the struggles that have been happening, not just this season, not just last season, but really over the last 4 or 5 seasons for Casey, I think that's becoming a more and more likely situation. So maybe the 5-car is where William Byron goes or Alex Bowman goes. I mean, Hendrick could have 2 cars.
Maybe where Matt Kenseth goes.
There's plenty of opportunities for Rick to pull from his farm systems and his developmental deals, and then there's a couple of big-name drivers out there that don't have contracts for next year or have already announced that they don't have a ride for next year and are looking for a driver.
Well, that's one of the cars literally that's not on our cheat sheet here is the 27.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with Paul Menard? He's in a contract year, and obviously he brings a sponsor.
Paul is listed on the next page, but his 27 is not.
Available driver, but not available ride. So is that 27 car, is Richard Childress going to fold it up? Originally, everybody thought maybe he'd keep the 27 car and bring Ty over there, but Ty's got like a 4 or 5 year deal.
He's got it. He's not like what we talked about with Erik Jones. Erik Jones has a developmental deal with Joe Gibbs Racing. He was allowed to sign a 1-year contract with Furniture Row Racing. And so when they signed that 1 year, everyone kind of went, well, why didn't you sign multiple years? Sponsors, fans, teams, everyone loves to be able to work for the future. And when you only sign a 1-year deal, it kind of leaves people hanging in the air midway through the season to find out, what are we doing? Until we announce the next signature. Ty Dillon is the complete opposite of that. He signed a multi-year deal with Germain Racing, even though Richard Childress Racing, obviously his granddad is the owner, and he had a deal with Richard Childress Racing. The deal is now with Germain Racing, who has a a satellite operation with Richard Childress Racing. So I don't think that's one of them. There's always options that Richard Childress could buy.
Yeah, we don't know what the contract says.
Yeah. The next car available, the 77. We now know that that's available.
If they keep it running.
Furniture Row has said they want to keep it going. And the interesting thing is that 5 Hour Energy, who is sponsoring that 77, is a Furniture Row sponsor, not a Eric Jones or Joe Gibbs Racing sponsor. Right. So that sponsorship could remain with the 77 car, whoever they sign into that 77, or if they end up putting the 77 in the garage and not running it for next season, then they could move that sponsorship over to the 78 car.
Now, what would be interesting is the 77, I believe they bought a charter for that car.
They do. Next car available will be the 10 of Danica Patrick. Even though she has another year on her contract, rumor has it that with sponsorship issues, performance issues, that she's probably not going to be returning to Stewart. I know, she's struggled, right? Odd.
Are you sure?
That
she may not, about the same person?
She may not be returning to Stewart-Haas Racing for 2018. Also unsigned is the 41. Now, Monster Energy is the main primary sponsor for the 41 at Stewart-Haas Racing and Kurt Busch, but with being the primary sponsor for NASCAR, no one's really sure what Monster is going to do with that primary sponsorship of Stewart-Haas Racing. According to NASCAR statements, Monster statements, and the Stewart-Haas contract, Monster has agreed to maintain their level through the end of the contract. They weren't going to take any money away and spend it on NASCAR. That wouldn't be fair to Stewart-Haas Racing, who had secured that deal. So all indications are that Stewart-Haas Racing wants to stay at a 4-team, but it's going to be tough with sponsorship issues with the 10, unsure what's going to happen with Monster. Everyone's pretty sure Kurt Busch is going to re-sign with Stewart-Haas Racing. They just need to find a sponsor for that 41. Another ride that's still available is the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Now, everybody is anticipating Brad's going to sign back at Penske. Both parties have said they want to re-sign, but I get the sneaking suspicion that Brad is just kind of hanging out to see what's available. Right now, Penske, like everybody else, is getting beat by Toyota and Furniture Row Racing. And I think, we've talked about it at this time. In this sport more than ever, drivers will sign with teams for less money, but the better opportunity to be successful.
Correct.
Very rarely do we see an NFL player re-signing with a team for less money than they made before in order for that team to go and spend money on other players. That just doesn't happen in the NFL. It's happened before. It just doesn't happen enough.
It's not a regular base. It's not a
NBA, LeBron James went to Miami for the money. He got paid an ungodly amount of money to play with a super team and won a championship. And then he came back to Cleveland so that he could make even more money and win. But with NASCAR, it seems to come down first and foremost, can you win me a championship? Do you give me the best opportunity to win a championship? Well, and I think that's what Brad's sitting there doing right now. Is he's kind of like, I don't have to sign right now. We can still wait a little bit longer. So I kind of want to see what rides are available, and if I can move on to an organization that gives me a better opportunity.
Well, it's Brad's ride if he wants it.
Yeah, I
think that's pretty much a given. Brad's got Penske a championship, even though it was still with the Dodge before they switched over to Ford. But the only car I can see Brad going to, if he's going to leave, is going to be the 88. Follow Dale Earnhardt, who's a good friend of his, and show that car is capable of winning. And that's exactly what Rick Hendrick's going to tell him.
And again, we just talked about it a little bit ago. Rick Hendrick is in a good spot. He has definitely one, if not 2 available. So, Brad could go into the 5 and get that curse fixed. But the good thing for Penske is if Brad does decide to leave, Roger Penske has said that we fully expect to have Ryan Blaney in a 3rd car here at Penske in 2018. Ryan's coming over to Penske in 2018. That's almost anything
done.
Except an absolutely done deal. Now, whether Ryan is in a 3rd car or if he takes over in that 2 car, but it's important to note that Miller Lite is expected to stay with Roger Penske since that is a Team Penske sponsor, and that would be a great transition for the team to go, or for Miller Lite as a brand to move to somebody that is so heavy on social media and such a good social media, so good at using social media, unlike I am with words most times.
The other one that fits in with Penske is the 27 with Paul Menard. Again, he's on a contract here, but nothing's been said for next year yet. And obviously, when he's sponsored by Menards and his last name Menard, those two are going. Where if he goes somewhere else, and as it just so happens, the captain there over at Penske in Indy cars has Menards all over a car.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's almost a given. If there becomes 3 cars and one of these is open, I almost see Paul Menard being at Penske. Yeah. What number the car will be, it'll probably be the 12, which is their kind of their third number, so they'll have 2, 12, and 22, and having Menards on it. But if it's not to be, then, and Brad re-signs, I think Ryan Blaney will be in the 12, and what will be sponsored on there is anybody's guess.
And that's interesting that, with Team Penske having that IndyCar series, Paul hasn't really been given much great equipment to win at Richard Childress Racing in the last 5 years. Now, he's won a Brickyard, and I think he's won a little bit over there, but I think Paul's in the position of he can simply say, I've got the checkbook. You guys aren't giving me the equipment. I'm going to go to another organization that will. And I think that's been the classic issue. We heard it with Clint Boyer. He actually came out and said it. I saw the writing on the wall, and I wanted to get out of Richard Childress Racing before I wasn't welcome anymore. He's bringing his 2 kids up. Kevin Harvick left, and now Paul Menard could possibly be leaving. So it seems like Richard Childress Racing is moving to focus on the 2 grandchildren. And everyone else be damned.
And by the way, congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Harvick. They're expecting.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
It's Keeneland.
Keelan's his son.
Yeah, expecting going to be a big brother. They haven't announced the other side of it, but yeah.
So available drivers, we've just talked about Brad Keselowski. We've talked about Matt Kenseth. We've touched on William Byron, Kurt Busch, Casey Kane could be a free agent, Ryan Blaney, Danica Patrick, Alex Bowman. You just talked about Paul Menard. The only guy that we haven't really talked about is Eric Almirola, who returns to the car today at New Hampshire after a successful test and being cleared by NASCAR. Eric hasn't re-signed with RPM for next season yet. He has close ties to Smithfield, which, by the way, favorite sponsorship in NASCAR. I'm going to be a really conflicted guy if Angry Orchard comes in and sponsors a car, because I don't know who's my favorite sponsorship then. But I'll be more than happy to sit at Kansas Speedway with a
Angry Orchard in one hand and a bunch of bacon in the other.
A skillet full of Smithfield, washing it all down with some Angry Orchard. And but anyways, so that'll be interesting to see what happens with Eric Almirola. I was really impressed with what Bubba Wallace was able to do with that 43 cars.
A couple good runs in there.
Very good run. And that could be something that they're interested in. They re-signed Bubba, or they signed Bubba, because right now, Bubba had a contract with Roush, but they broke the contract. He was supposed to race this season with the Xfinity Series. We originally thought that he hopped out of that ride to go for a Cup opportunity, but it sounds like it was more of a perfect timing scenario because they ended their operation in the Xfinity Series because of lack of sponsorship and lack of funding.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was a friendly split, but both sides saw the writing on the wall and said, well, Roush says, I don't have the money and you aren't bringing money. You don't have a checkbook. So,
right.
And it just happened. But if Eric comes back and doesn't start putting some top 20, top 15 runs together, he probably won't be in that ride unless Smithfield keeps him in it.
Yeah, that's it. And there's the bad side of NASCAR and auto racing in general. I mean, it seems to be the sport that if you've got the money, you've got a spot in the starting grid. But that's just what we've had to deal with since day one of auto racing. That somebody's always had somebody that didn't have enough talent, but they had a checkbook behind him to buy the equipment and buy everything, and they've been able to go racing.
And it's become more prevalent in the last 8 to 10 years. And now that the charters have come in, then it's become even more prevalent. But you see some guys that have got a chance and, didn't quite cut it. Like, we spoke recently with Justin Allgaier, and I remember when we interviewed him at Kansas in his second year, and he was just switching the cars, so he was driving his third different kind of car in 3 years. And like he said, he goes, he wished he'd never had to run that year in between. He thought that hurt him more than anything else, but he's doing very well this year, right at the top of the point standings. So and he's got the checkbook behind him, but they were tired of writing such a big check, so they wanted to write a smaller check. So
that is an expensive check. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. We're going to sit down with...
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food. Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Hey everybody, this is Kyle Larson, driver of the Target Chevy number 42, and you're listening to The Front Stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 2, and it's time to look forward. Just a few days away from the kickoff of the Silver Dollar Nationals, $263,000 will be paid out come Saturday night when the checkered flag waves for the Lucas Oil Late Model Touring Series.
I'm getting in line.
Yeah, one of those guys that could be cashing the big check, standing in victory lanes, joining us now. Josh Richards, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on here.
Josh, man, first year in the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, doing well for yourself. When you started and you started touring with the Lucas Oil guys this year as a part of the touring series, did you expect to have the success that you're having so far?
Certainly not. We, the team that I'm with, Best Performance, we're just a small team, and I knew there was going to be a transition period of just getting used to the equipment, getting the chemistry with the team, and new series, new tire rolls, everything is new. So, I knew that there'd be a little bit of a learning curve, but to be, to have the year that we've had so far. I couldn't ask for it to go any smoother. As a racer, you always want to do better. So I don't know if you're ever really, satisfied, but certainly it's been a fun year for sure.
4-time champion for the World of Outlaw Late Model Touring Series. You decided at the end of last year to start racing with the World of Outlaws. Can you kind of talk? With the Lucas Oil guys. Can you kind of talk about the decision to move over to a different series?
I mean, the biggest thing was, to make the switch with the race team. I've always wanted to work with, crew chief Randall Edwards, and we talked to, we had a talk and everything at the beginning of the year, and really it just made more sense logistically. And the team had already had a year, with Brandon Shepard last year, and they've kind of already, done the schedule, and it was just kind of one of those things where it really just made sense. To do another year with them more than anything. I know everyone wants to look for a big reason why we switched, but it wasn't, anything crazy. It's just made more sense on paper.
You ever been tempted just to make something up to throw a little gas on the fire?
No, that's not quite me.
Oh, I like to tease people and have fun and just make up stuff. But, yeah, I hear you that way. But quite a few wins on the season. You guys, the team is jiving pretty well so far. And you're coming into to one of the biggest paying late model races in the country with $53,000 to win. You were here back in May for the Go 50. Were you able to get kind of a beat on what the track's going to be like in a couple of days?
Yeah, I'm so excited to come back there. As a kid, we had our house car there with Steve Francis driving. I think I was back in like 2002, right before I started racing, and I got to see the facility, and we won as a team, and to come back this year and get to race there was really cool. When you watch videos, it's it's different than when you get out there. It's certainly a fast track, and always what I look forward to, and you can move around and race wherever you want to. So I'm more than excited just to come to the facility. But then when you put all that money on the line, it certainly puts icing on the cake. But we can't wait to come back.
For the Go 50, you started 19th and finished 6th. That's a heck of a run through the field. How do you get your car to be able to start, that 5 or 6 positions closer to the front so that you can be in victory lane? I
think a lot of it's just, I think once we made that first run, just kind of getting a layout on everything. We didn't qualify also great. I think we just had a few little things going on, and, you're off a little bit. A 10th or 2 can put you back a row in a heat race, and, you're fighting really fast guys. So I think if we can just get out there and get dialed in early from hot laps on, to get the ball rolling is going to be key. But the cool thing is about that track, it seems like it doesn't really matter that you are able to race your way up through even if you start rough. So that's as a driver, you always look forward to that. So we're going to certainly try the best we can.
And back at the Go 50, didn't you take a couple opportunities to go ahead and go to the infield and make an adjustment? So you went to the back several times?
I did. I actually came back for a helmet one time. So
that's right.
They got some rain, and some guy. There was a lot of mud. I just ran out of tear-offs, and I was like, man, this is going to be bad. So I just stopped, caused a caution, and came in and got a helmet. So yeah, we did go to the back and got back up through a little bit at the end. We just ran out of time, but I'm sure it'll be in better condition this time.
And it's going to be a little bit different. A lot of these guys know that the heat is huge in Greenwood, Nebraska in the middle of July. And plus, you've got an extra 30 laps to be able to make your way through the field. So double up on the tear-offs.
Oh, yeah. No, we'll be ready. Sure.
What's your plans for the future? Is the Lucas Oil Late Model Touring Series kind of it for you as you continue through your career? Or do you want to get up into the larger, maybe the Asphalt Touring Series like NASCAR or IndyCar or something like that?
No, I'm pretty content running, the late model stuff. I just always aspired to do the NASCAR thing and had an opportunity to do some truck stuff and nationwide stuff. Had a lot of fun and learned a lot. It's just my heart's really in late model racing. I enjoy it. I love every bit of it, and it's so competitive. And as far as the series goes, I don't really have it's just one of those things. We just do whatever we see fit. And this year was Lucas, and we're going to finish the year out and hopefully on top. We got a long way to go, but regardless, we're just going to try to have fun and as a team and try to accomplish what we can.
Having toured around with both the series and been in it for quite a while now, you've probably got a list of things you would like to see happen to dirt racing. And one of the questions that we ask a lot of these guys, and this isn't to maybe poke a hole in what we love to watch and do, it's just necessarily kind of get your take on some things that you would like to see change. So we always ask that if you were the god of racing and you could change anything about dirt racing, doesn't necessarily have to be on-track action. It could be something about the speedways.
Help the promoters.
Anything. I mean,
help the manufacturers.
And we say the god of because gods can change things that don't necessarily abide to the laws of physics. So if there was anything you could change about racing, would there be one thing that you could say, let's change this?
As far as the racing goes, I wouldn't change a thing. I think it's everything the way it is. The only thing that would be great across the board is if everyone can come up with a more, streamlined tire roll situation. It's tough whenever, you have, locals versus some of the different series and different guys. Everyone's on different tires, so you're always having to constantly, change your car plus purchase the tires and get them ready. And so that's kind of been a deal that's been going on for however many years. And I think, if everyone can get on the same page, that would make life a lot easier for all the racers and everyone in general, behind the scenes. But that would probably be the biggest thing as far as the racing goes and all that. I think it's awesome, and the promoters are doing a phenomenal job, just like the Kaziskis at I-80. It's cool to see those guys work hard and put up big purses for us to go and try to win and put on a show. So we couldn't be more thankful for that part.
Yeah, the tire rule has kind of come together in the last 8 to 10 years as opposed to what it was, say, 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, you guys were carrying 300-400 tires into a racetrack. That was insane.
Yeah, it was. And the weird thing is, even though we carried a lot of tires, we didn't really use that many tires because we had the right tire for the condition, whereas now we carry less, but we go through way more. So it's kind of a toss-up, really, versus having the quantity or have to keep buying new tires every day anyway. So that's just kind of one of those things that there's so many, I guess, gray areas where you just want it to be clear and everyone be on the same page to make it easier. But that's all I would change.
Is there a creature comfort that you require at the track each time? Something that you've got to have, or you're just going to be off your game?
Not really. I don't know. I'm pretty easy. As long as we're there and everything's the way it should be, I'm usually pretty good.
As long as you're there and the car's there, you're good, huh?
As long as the track's ready and they throw the green flag and I can push the gas and go. That's all I need.
See, if I was the god of racing, I'd make sure every dirt track was air-conditioned during June, July, and August. That'd be my...
Yeah, well, we don't want to... See, that would take all of the fun out of it if we made it too perfect, so...
Not for me!
Well, we've had answers from when Rico Abreu said he'd want all kids, if they showed up the racetrack, they got in free. Every kid could get in any racetrack. It's a good one. And... one of your competitors over there, Mr. Bloomquist, he said we need to figure out a way to keep the dirt out of the grandstands. He said big Plexan window or something, or something like that.
Those are all good points. Those are great points for sure.
Well, we may have to ask you that again when you come here in a couple of days to the Silver Dollar Nationals. We'll follow up for you Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. What is your biggest paying race to win to date?
The biggest paying race would be the Dream at Eldora. It's in June. It's $100,000 to win, and then I guess there's another $100,000 to win at the end of the year at Portsmouth, the Dirt Track World Championship. Those two have been on the schedule for a long time, but the dirt track in the fall just upped it to 100. It used to be 50 since the 70s. It's been 50,000. They just upped it to 100 last year. This will be the second year for it. But regardless, this is a really big one we're coming to next week.
What's your biggest paying race, though?
What's the one you've won?
Oh, the one I've won would be 50. We won at Cedar Lake. We won it twice. It was 50. So if we could win this one, it'd be the biggest.
Need to get that Dream back up to $1 million.
Yeah, that was cool. That was actually the first time I ever went to Eldora as a kid and watched that race and watched Moran win that race. It was pretty crazy.
Wow.
It was cool to witness.
We got a lot of tickets to sell to get up to $1 million. But I tell you, if there's a track that wants to do it, it's I-80 Speedway, and the Kaziskis will find a way.
Yeah, I know they buy lottery tickets. So if they
yeah.
All right, well, listen, we look forward to talking to you this coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at I-80 Speedway. I will warn you, there's not much to do when you're at the Speedway because it's out kind of just off the interstate. It's a little bit of a drive to get to any kind of entertainment, but if you're into watching corn grow, it's going to be perfect for you. Right off turn 3, we've got a nice crop growing out there.
I'm excited. I'm from West Virginia, so I'm used to it.
All right, Josh Richards, driver the #1 for Best Performance Motorsports in the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Good luck to you. Hope to see you in Victory Lane on Saturday night.
Yep, thanks again.
Thanks,
you, Josh.
Can't wait for that race. That's to me, it's the biggest race in the area. I'm
hands down
probably a homer because I love everything that Joe and Steve and Lisa and everybody at I-80 Speedway has done for me, but with adding the 53,000, it makes it one of the biggest paying late model races in the country.
Well, Josh just said it's the third in line.
The only thing that race is lacking is history. There's been 6 great years of racing, but what the Dream and what the World 100 have is history. They've got 30, 40, 50 years of running that race and plenty of time for people to draw back on that memory. By the way, here's the bill for you. Thursday night action features the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series racing for $5,300 to win, largest purse in their history. Then the Nebraska 360s are racing for $2,000 to win, one of the bigger paying races for that series. And the unsanctioned B-Mods are racing for $500 to win, $100 to start. So that's a good paying race through the rest of the field. And that's on Thursday night. And then we'll also have Lucas Oil and USMTS practice on Thursday night. It's be about an hour practice to let those guys kind of get an idea what the track's going to be like after it's rubbered up and had some action on it. And then come back on Friday, it's all the qualifying action for the USMTS Modifieds and the Lucas Oil. Then on Saturday, last chance qualifiers and dash for the USMTS Modifieds, paying $1,000 to win. And then there's the features, $10,000 to win for the USMTS Modifieds and $53,000 to win for the Lucas Oil.
You'll have a last chance for the Lucas Oil cars, won't you? Isn't there
last chance qualifiers, but there won't be a dash. Right. So, it'll be it's an action-packed night. And I mean, it's 3 days of racing that's just absolutely amazing. It's hot, it's sticky, it sucks, but it's well worth it. I mean, when you're done at the end of the night and you're standing there looking at that track, and man alive, does Steve give you a beautiful track. I think with the forecast we have later this week, he's going to have a little tougher track to produce, but Steve knows how to do it. He's going to perform for everybody, and it's going to be a beautiful track for these guys to race on. And I'm so excited for this race with the 53,000. I can't wait to see who shows up.
Well, everybody's going to show up. Everybody that is somebody is going to come and try and get this cash, and you'll have all your hot shoes out of the MLRA, which is regional. I mean, you'll have your handful of guys coming out of your Malvern Bank Series.
Yep.
That are going to get in here and try and get some of this cash, and then you'll have the Lucas Oil guys.
Even the local guys, I imagine Tad Pospischel, Kyle Burke's going to race it. I know Jesse Sobbing's going to race it. So there's 3 guys right there out of the Malvern Bank that are in the front of the point standings.
Andrew will probably be there.
Yeah.
He ran it last year.
Yep.
So I would expect him to go ahead and show up this year.
Yep. And if he can get a provisional and get into that race, he'll go in and get the experience. And he had a lot of good experience last year.
Yeah, he ran the whole show.
And by the way, all the Nebraska guys last year had a great showing. So I think Andrew said there was, or Anthony said there was 6 Nebraska guys in the finish that made the feature. Maybe it was 5 guys that made the feature, but great run for a lot of drivers. So get out there next week. It's 18, 33, and 38 for the 3 days of the tickets, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Do they have a ticket package where you save a little money?
They did, but it ended.
Oh. Okay.
So you missed out on that. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We're going to continue our conversation about all the news and notes that are happening around the NASCAR world. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
This week's Young Gun on the front stretch is rookie sport compact driver Bryson Ramey. Bryson is following in the footsteps of his uncle Tim and grandfather Bob, who both raced Pro-Ams all over the Midwest. Bryson is a true rookie this year since he's never driven a dirt car before. He currently races weekly at Adams County Speedway, where he has his goals set on a top 5 points finish. His career goals include winning a track championship at Adams County Speedway in the Sport Compacts and multiple classes, eventually racing full-time with the Malvern Banks Super Late Model Series, touring with the USMTS Modifieds, or even trying his hand at the Lucas Oil Late Models. Before he's beating Rodney Sanders, Tad Pospischel, and Scott Bloomquist, you can see Bryson Ramey in the 77R, Damewood Auto Sales and Repair, Mater Trucking, Witchman Repair, Butcher Farms Sport Compact at Adams County Speedway. This week's Young Gun has been presented by Craig Kelly from Insera Kelly Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys.
For almost 70 years, Insera Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Hey, Sprint Car fans, this is Shaylee Bade, the driver of the 03 U.S. Army Hellgate Construction Sprint Car. You're listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 3. Big story that came out after Kentucky on Wednesday. NASCAR announced that they had fined series points leader Kyle Larson 35 driver points and 35 owner points. They had hit his crew chief with a $75,000 fine and placed him on a 3-race suspension for illegal rear brake cooling assembly. This is plain and simple. This is the same type of issue that Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childress got in trouble with a few months ago. According to what Kevin had said, NASCAR requires all teams to submit any body modifications via drawing to their corporate headquarters. And the 42 team had not done that. Now, not to say it wouldn't have been approved, they just didn't do it. It's kind of like when you add an addition onto your house and you don't go and get the permit, they're gonna fine you and you're gonna get in trouble someday. This is kind of what happened. And I think that's what we saw with the statement from Chip Ganassi Racing says that we accept the penalty and we'll move on.
Yep.
And that was pretty much it.
They're not going to appeal it.
Nope.
You know, Kyle's in the chase or the playoff, and so you don't have to worry about that. It did drop him out of the points lead.
Yep, he had a 1-point advantage over Martin Truex Jr. It's now a 34-point deficit.
I have no idea if that made 33. I don't have any idea if that made anybody cry in the 5-week contest or not yet.
We'll see once it gets updated.
But it was interesting to read it, and they held that an extra day. They didn't give that out until Wednesday, when normally it's Tuesday they start talking about that stuff.
Right.
So they must have been talking about it quite a while, in the NASCAR offices.
Yeah.
And I watched NBC what's their NASCAR America.
Yep.
That's their show, and they had like Dale Jarrett was talking about it last night. He said that the crew chief will take something to the track, and NASCAR will say it's okay, so they'll run it. Well, the next race, it's got a new and improved gadget here, or it's twisted a little bit there, and NASCAR will say that's okay. Well, then there's another twist and something improved on the following week that was improved on the original version that was okayed 2 weeks before, and he goes, next thing you know, you've got this skyscraper somewhere in your car, and they say, no, you can't run that.
Yeah.
But they didn't check it. It wasn't something they looked at in the pre-race tech. He didn't make qualifying tech. He didn't make it through. He didn't make a qualifying pass. So he had an issue somewhere.
Because he had to start from the back.
So, but they okayed him in race tech to go ahead and start the race. So, it's really a gray area that he must have hit, and when we get back over to Iowa Speedway, hopefully Ken was at that race maybe, and he'll be able to fill me in on exactly what was going on. Might have some more dirt on that.
So once again, 35 driver point penalty, 35 owner point penalty, $75,000 fine for crew chief Chad Johnson, and Chad gets suspended for 3 races, so he gets to take a vacation, which he actually won't, and he'll just sit at a computer and look at the data coming across and send text messages to the interim crew chief to make changes. So really, it used to be that the big penalty was the points penalty. With the new system, the points penalty doesn't really matter much. Then, after the point system came in, it was losing your crew chief for 3 weeks. Well, now these guys have gotten pretty good at just sitting outside the track or sitting at home and being able to network into the track stuff.
Phone, whatever.
Right. So I'm trying to find where the penalty comes in.
Well, the point penalty does make a little difference now because there's such a bonus thing for playoff points with the regular season championship.
That's going to be the part that was huge. For Kyle alone, if he was able to hold on and win the regular season championship, and that's to be the points leader at the end of the first 26 points paying races, then he could have been awarded 15 playoff bonus points. Guess who that's going to now?
Well, looks like it's going to. But
I mean,
the thing I found interesting is, I believe, didn't Kyle end up second in the race of Kentucky? Mm-hmm. So that's the points they took, his 35 points. But he also had some stage points, and they didn't touch those.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily that they took his points away from Kentucky. This is a typical points penalty for an L1 penalty.
Well, but I'm just saying, the fact that it happened to be 35 points, we've seen a lot of them that are 20 and 25. They took his points for his second-place finish.
I'll have to look back on the official sheet and see how many he got, because I can't remember. You can't really look at it anymore and say, oh, he got this many, because, again, the stage points make it tough for you to be able to just say, he finished third, he got 37 points.
Well,
or, whatever it be.
For finishing second for the final stage, he got 35 points. It's 40, then 35.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't know what he finished actually in the first 2 stages, but I know he was in the top 10.
Yeah, he was, because he drove up there both times.
Yep. Yeah, he went through the field 3 times.
Your point standings, I'm trying to pull that up again. So Larson is 34 points back. Now, after the penalty has been applied, the next person is Kyle Busch, 100 points back. Listen, I mean, we don't have enough races for Kyle Busch to be able to catch up to Martin Truex Jr. All things being equal. No weird things happen. The 78 team doesn't get fined. There isn't 2 or 3 races where he blows an engine and ends up 40th or 39th or 37th. And all things being equal, I don't see Kyle Busch picking up 100 points, Kevin Harvick picking up 110, and Chase Elliott picking up 149, who are all your top 5. So the only person that really has a chance to get up there and contend with Martin Truex Jr. for the regular season title is Kyle Larson, but he's now 34 points behind.
He's 34 points behind and without his crew chief for 3 races. That's more important than the 34 points when he's trying to play catch-up.
That's going to be tough.
But you're right. I mean, Kyle Busch is 100 points back. It's taken him 18 races to get 100 points behind. It's going to be tough to get it all back in, 8 races?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's going to be tough. But again, I mean, if Martin goes out and has an engine issue, which he's had some this year and stuff like that, and, Kyle wins a race finally and or 2, Kyle can put a streak together. He's that kind of driver. He can win 3 out of the next 8 races, And
to his point, he's been hot lately. He just hasn't got the wins to show it. Mm-hmm. He's been strong, and one time his crew chief left him out, and that doomed him. But then you look a couple of weeks later, Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief left him out, and it worked.
And it doomed him to the win. Oh, darn.
On to other news. Richmond International Raceway is now known as the track formerly known as, I'm just kidding, it's now Richmond Raceway. They've taken off the international portion. They've done a big rebranding and announced a $30 million facelift for the track. The infield part, the fan experience, is going to get a big facelift. So cool to see for Richmond.
Well, the infield there was always kind of a mess. I mean, They only had one section of garages. You'd go there for the triple-header weekend with the trucks, Xfinity, and Cup Series all there. The Cup's got the garages. Everybody else was just out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And it was kind of a mess.
The big news that's kind of been starting to peak up again. We see this pop up in the headlines ever so often, once or twice a year, ever since Dodge has left the sport. But that a new manufacturer is on the verge of being announced for NASCAR. And according to an article published on Monday, NASCAR is in aggressive conversations with a new manufacturer to join the sport. That comes from Steve O'Donnell, who gave that quote on the Morning Drive on Satellite Sirius Radio. He says, "We're aggressively pursuing a new manufacturer. We want to make sure that they come in similar to how Toyota did and how it really changed the sport. They've done a tremendous job and really helped the industry." So the big question is, who's it going to be? If he keeps saying new manufacturer, does that eliminate Dodge?
Partially, in my opinion, it does. I mean, the last manufacturer that everybody thought was going to follow Toyota in were two. It was Nissan and Honda. Mm-hmm. They seemed like the likely candidates. But the last one that you've heard a whole lot of talk about was Audi.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see how NASCAR fans will react to it. It wasn't good when Toyota announced they were coming into the sport. There was a lot of backlash, a lot of...
There still is.
Frankly, narrow-minded idiots that just, it's no longer an American sport. Well, and you hate to bring facts to a conversation says...
don't do that.
Toyota is the only one in the sport that actually makes most of their cars in the United States.
And then they'll look at you and they'll say, yeah, but the money goes to Japan.
Oh, well. A lot of money goes everywhere. But anyways, yeah, so I think Honda, to me, with little knowledge I have, and I can't stress that enough, the little knowledge that I have, I think it's going to be Honda, but I think you're absolutely right. Audi's got that money behind it. Honda's got a lot of money behind it. And don't get me wrong, but it just feels like Audi's got the money. They could come in and be gangbusters. And really, that could change everything for the sport and bring it back into a better light to where now we've got four manufacturers competing for the championship, but Audi's bringing in new sponsors. They're bringing in new support and new everything. And it really makes the other manufacturers get up on their toes. And I think the sport could definitely use it because it's still Chevy heavy. We've seen a big shift in the last 3 years with Stewart-Haas Racing leaving Chevy and Furniture Row leaving Chevy. Could this be another sign that a couple of those organizations that have been struggling under the Chevy or the Ford banner could be lured away with some, hey, we're trying to get into the sport, much like Joe Gibbs Racing was lured away from they had Chevy then too.
Chevy, yeah. Well, they had always been GM with the Pontiacs, is what they ran and then switched to the Chevy when Pontiac walked out because they didn't have to switch any engines.
Yeah.
When they made the switch to Toyota, they had to switch everything. And Toyota came into the truck series, and they were in the trucks, I think, for 3 years, and then they ran the Xfinity series and then opened up in the Cup series. But, it took them, I can't remember if they got their first win halfway through the truck season or in the second truck season. I think it was halfway through the first year in trucks.
Help me remember, did they come into trucks and make their way up through the series, or were they into trucks? Did they come into all three series at once?
No, they came into trucks in 2004.
Okay.
And I believe it was 2006 or 7 that they came into the Xfinity series and then followed the Cup series the year after that.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think it'll be great for the sport if that happens. And frankly, I don't think today's consumers, quite honestly, care if it's a foreign-built manufacturer in NASCAR. And, NASCAR's got to move on past that to where we're not an isolationist country anymore. Haven't been for a long time. It's time for us to broaden our horizons, and if we can we've expanded out into the Japanese market with Toyota. Now it's time for us to expand out into the European and German market with Audi. Sad news to report that Martin Truex Jr.'s girlfriend, Sherry Pollock, missed Kentucky's race because her cancer has returned and she was having surgery. So we send the best luck to her, and hopefully she can beat it once again. And you could kind of tell Martin was there was just something about the way he did that post-race where he was kind of struggling with his words a little bit. And then when that news story came out, I said, well, I kind of that puts the final piece in place of kind of what he was talking about. Hey, Dirk, do you want to know how much it costs to sponsor a NASCAR Cup Series race?
As in sponsoring the TV end of it or sponsoring a car?
The title sponsorship for a track.
I know what it used to be, but I don't know what it is now.
Would you like to know what it is now?
It used to be a cool $1 million.
Not there anymore. According to recent documents that have been acquired for sponsor conversations with Watkins Glen International, $463,500 is the price tag to be the sponsor at Watkins Glen. What was it before? It was the Cheez-It 355 at the Glen.
Yeah, I think it was Cheez-It.
And now it's going to be the I Love New York 355 at Watkins Glen. So, yeah, you'll get multiple billboards and signage promoting at State Tourism brand.
Yeah, I had some inside scoop on a Kansas race years ago, and couldn't be any older than 2001, but it was kind of when NASCAR was in a little more of a heyday there, the early 2000s, and it was $1 million to be the title sponsor for the race, and then that title sponsor also had to pony up $1 million to Fox. So they would talk about during the race. Remember when Fox first came on and they were blurring out the sponsors on the cars and all that stuff?
I don't remember that.
Oh, that was insane when Fox first come in. The car would be going down the track, and you knew it was Dale Jarrett. It was the red, white, and blue, Ford Credit Ford, and they got the sponsor all blurred out on it, and it's covering half the numbers and everything else.
How am I not surprised?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy there for the first year.
I cannot wait for them to lose their broadcast contract. I don't care if it goes to Cartoon Network. I'll watch it over Fox.
Maybe Scripps Broadcasting can get in there.
We don't have any money. I don't know if you noticed by the equipment in this room, we don't have any money. We certainly don't have that kind of money. We don't have Monster Energy kind of money.
Well, we were talking about the news with Martin Truex's girlfriend. I think we kind of missed the boat last week. The racing community lost a family member with the Roby family, Kurt, who'd done a lot of racing in the area, but was also big in his dad's pit area and helping out his dad, but he lost a battle of cancer.
He did pass?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I hadn't seen anything on Facebook that he ended up. I know they had a benefit for him
back on the 24th.
Yeah,
the benefit
the day we got back from Iowa Speedway, and
right. We couldn't make that. But yeah, he did pass recently, and we might have missed that last week on the show. But if you see Glenn or Steve or any of the Roby bunch, they're always at the racetrack, especially now they've still got their car running in the Malvern Bank Series with Mr. Dumpert driving it there. So, stop down and show them a little love.
Yeah, Tad, I'm sorry we missed that. I had no idea. Thanks for bringing that up. We're going to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. We'll wrap this baby up here on the front stretch.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
This is Jonathan Davenport, the 2016 Silver Dollar Nationals champion, and you're listening to the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 4, just about ready to wrap this baby up. Turn 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Make sure you get over to Quaker Steak and Lube today and enjoy some great beers, great wine. They do have some wine there, by the way. Great mixed drinks, burgers, so many great burgers.
Don't they have wings?
They do have a couple of wings. There's a new one. Dang it! It's a provolone cheeseburger, I believe is what it's called, and it's basically a cheeseburger that has the cheese curds on top that's piled on top of it. Oh God, it's so good. Over at Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Race for today at New Hampshire coverage kicks off on NBCSN at 12:30. Picks are due by 2. Green flag set to wave at about 2:15 our local Central Time.
Week number 5. Everybody overthink yourself.
Talk to me about New Hampshire. It's a
flat
track. And interesting enough, they came out earlier this week and said they're going to be treating the entire race surface. Unlike other tracks that have treated the outside groove to help bring it in.
Or the inside groove that was already in.
This goes to your point of flat. They're treating the entire track to try to help with some of the grip and help these cars get some speed off the corner and help the racing action.
And not so much the speed off the corner because the corners are wide enough. They're not as tight as like Martinsville. So that's not a big issue, but literally just staying in the turf because they have a groove that the main groove of the track is about a half a car off the bottom. Mm-hmm. 90% of your tracks, you're right on the bottom or clear up on the top. But this being flat, there is really no top.
Yeah.
It just marbles up out there and runs into problems. But with them treating the whole track, and there's never been a race like this before, you throw all your notebooks out the window.
Right. And I do kind of like those. By the way, next weekend show, we are live following the Silver Dollar Nationals on Sunday morning. We're going to have, we'll probably have Stan Caesar back on the show to recap the Saturday night action at Eagle Raceway. But then we'll bring you interviews with Victory Lane and then the top 5, whoever we can get. Sometimes it's really difficult to tackle those guys and get interviews with them, but we'll try to bring you interviews with the top 5, race highlights, and all the racing weekend. We'll get you interviews with the Super Late Model, Malvern Bank winner, the Nebraska 360 winner, the U.S. MTS Modifieds winner, all of them. We'll bring you all that stuff next Sunday for the live show.
Going to be good.
Thanks to Rick Havenridge for sponsoring the I-80 Speedway Crewman for a Day 5-week contest. If you're looking for any financial advice, get over to Wealth Partners. We'll do it all again live next weekend. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. We'll see you next weekend on the front stretch.
The official watering hole of the front stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.